Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 31st day of July 2023. My name is Sam Gituko and I want to introduce the panelists here in studio. We have Fred Okango, who is the Secretary of Political Affairs within KANU. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
We have Mheshimiwa from Belgut, Nelson Koech. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Senator Eddie Oketch from Migori County. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
How have you been?
Good, good.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
And Mheshimiwa Eden Kenan from Eldas constituency. Good morning.
Good morning.
The longest-serving parliamentarian here, but also, is it in the House also?
In the House, 13th Parliament.
Yeah, the longest-serving in the 13th Parliament. And I want us to take a look at what's happening in the country. There's a lot of denials going on, but also conversations around what the agenda should be for the talks that appear to have been mediated by a former president of Nigeria. But also the front page of the Daily Nation is Dear Sugar, a bitter taste, talking about the prices of sugar, how they've been going up, and also reflecting on what is now law, the implementation of 5 shillings per kilo as a tax on imported sugar. And the reason that was given by the Finance Minister or the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary, that is one Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, is that sugar causes diabetes. So to control the consumption, a 5 shilling duty was imposed. Ruto, Raila clash on talks agenda is also a story that is on the Daily Nation. President William Ruto and Azimio Chief Raila Odinga's camps have clashed over the terms of reference for talks initiated by the international community, with the opposition disowning a statement released by the government side and insisting that the high cost of living must be off the table. And then on the Standard, Hustler agenda takes backseat as talks begin, whereas the Sufria has been the symbol of the recent protest by Kenyans demonstrating against the high cost of living, while from the two camps indicate the matter was not given serious attention, resulting in rows between the groups. Let's listen to the former Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, that is Peter Munya, speaking about the meeting that was.
There was a meeting chaired by His Excellency Honorable Obasanjo. And Baba accepted to appear in that meeting because of his respect for His Excellency Honorable Obasanjo. We take note that Kenya Kwanza is trying to deny His Excellency Obasanjo's presence and leadership of the talks. That would be a very unfortunate development indeed.
Honorable Koech, why is it important whether President Obasanjo was there or not? But for the record, was he there?
Sam, it is unfortunate that we have had to some people have had to drag a retired president to come and supposedly mediate, I don't know on what. We should stop this situation where politicians create a crisis and want to solve the same crisis. There is no crisis in this country to warrant mediation whatsoever. Whether Obasanjo was in the country or any other former president is neither here nor there. My point is, why do we need Obasanjo in the country? First of all, do we have a crisis in this country? Absolutely no crisis. This is a self-made crisis to look like this country is at war. We want to make a situation look like 2007, 2008. That is not the situation. The situation that we have in is a politically created crisis to look like this country is burning and we need something to mediate. Let me ask you, Sam, why do we need to invite someone from Nigeria, a country already suffering from fuel crisis and food inflation, to come and solve the same problem in this country? If we had that problem, it will have taken the leadership that we have. And it's very unfortunate to watch Honorable Munya, someone who had actually ran and hid in some bunker, is finally getting the stamina and the energy to crawl back and dare Kenya Kwanza. The crisis we are trying to solve, he is part of it and is confidently speaking about it here. The UNGA subsidy that was gobbled so much money in excess of billions, Munya is part of that problem. He was a Minister of Agriculture. To see him speaking there, first of all, is an insult to the citizen of this country. Going back to the mediation, is that whether there was any talk or not, I like when leaders talk. Of course, it is okay. When leaders talk, it is okay. But for me, in my own view, it was just any other talk. It does not mean anything whatsoever. This country, the problem that we're facing...
What do you mean? Does it mean anything?
Because for me, what is Obasanjo talking about with the president or with Raila? What is he mediating on? What is the crisis? What is the problem? Is there any problem in this country? And I told you here, Sam, when I was here last, a fortnight ago, I didn't mention to you that there was not going to be a Mandamano on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It came to pass. And I told you there was not going to be a handshake. And I told you that what these people want is simple. These people want power. It is nothing, and I want to speak to the Kenyan people today, that you have absolutely no reason to die for any politician. These people are job-seeking. These people, this is the process of job-seeking. So all that is happening here is people trying to create a crisis, and they want to solve the same crisis, but I can tell you the discussions that are going around now is about what can we get. They want to get what is available now. In fact, the price has gone down from what it was.
Price of what?
Whatever discussions, because there was at some point it was a high stake. Now it's coming down. It's not what I thought. So there's no discussion. There's no discussion about crisis. It is nothing about food. It is nothing about solving food. Food involves myself and Honorable Kainan and Honorable Eddie here in Parliament. We must make sound fiscal policies. Kenya Kwanza has introduced those policies. It has nothing to do with sitting to bring the cost of Unga down. Let me ask you, they have suspended Mandamano. Does it mean the cost of Unga has come down? Why is it that these discussions is not open to the public? Why can't we have a discussion where we are sitting in Bomas and say, okay, Honorable Raila Odinga, what is it that you have a problem with? Can we discuss it in public if it is the cost of living? And if it is the cost of living, do you have to go for Mandamano? If it is the cost of living, must people die? I can tell you here confidently, as I conclude, I can tell you here confidently what Azimio wants, and that is why you see even Munya is rushed back from his hiding, is they believe there is going to be Nusumkate so that they can join government. Zero. There is no Nusumkate. Let them now sit there and know that we are very serious, we are watching, and there is no Nusumkate. There is no crisis. And that crisis, we will sort it out in Parliament. In fact, by the way, the mediator talk, now what has been agreed is that they're only going to add 2 additional members. Why was the bipartisan talk suspended in the first place? Okay,
I hear you. You said there's no crisis, but the crisis will be solved in Parliament. So is it there or is it not?
There's no crisis. If there was a crisis,
So what are you solving?
That's why we are elected leaders, because we have the responsibility. We have been mandated by the people.
Okay, so first things first. So do you confirm that Obasanjo was in that meeting between Raila Odinga and William Ruto?
I can't confirm. I'm also reading in the paper like you are.
So you have no information on that?
I have no information. I'm very upset, by the way, that Obasanjo was in the country. Why are they dragging an old man to come and sort out?
Hold on, because you're confusing me, because you have made an entire presentation based on Obasanjo's presence in the country. Now you're telling me you have no information whether he was here.
Obasanjo is a senior citizen. He's been in this country severally. If he came to the country to see the president on other issues and in the process discussed possible
don't
manufactured crisis.
Don't take me there. Just give me a specific answer. But if you don't want to answer, it's still fine. Fred, was he there, was he not? And why does it matter anyway?
Thank you, Sam. We want to put the facts straight. You know, my good friend, Honorable Koech, in their regime, they say they are a one-approach government. I would have expected that probably by now you'd have consulted his principal, Honorable Ruto, and would have given him the details. Our principal and coalition leader, Raila Odinga, has given us the details, and that's what I want to put to the public this morning. First of all, Honorable Obasanjo is not just a former president. On 26th of August 2021, Musa Faki, the AU chair, appointed Obasanjo as the High Representative of the Horn of Africa that is dealing with citizen inclusion and engagement. And that one we must respect as people from this region. Number 2, Honorable Obasanjo Olusegun was in the country and met Honorable Ruto and Honorable Raila in a meeting in Mombasa as a mediator. And those were what we call talks before the talks. And they agreed on certain issues. So to that extent, those are things that are as clear as they are. But some, Honorable Koech cannot say there is no crisis that requires a mediator. If you recall, on 2nd of April, and we were here, we've been here, we have talked about this. Honorable William Ruto announced to the world and Kenya that he was open for honest, objective, and sincere deliberations. And he suggested what we call a bipartisan engagement. He urged Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga to call off further demonstrations, if you call. As it could be, Azimio, we gave room for talks. Long story short, we went for these discussions, and my good friend, Honorable Kinan, had a short stint in that committee. You know why those discussions did not end well. Because it was, one, there was mistrust. And two, the leadership from the other side, in our view, were not prepared for the talks, in our view. And therefore, we followed the provisions of the framework agreement that required that when there's an irreconcilable differences, then you can adjourn the talks. And further, if there are other issues that cannot be resolved within a specific time, then those talks can be stopped. Our leader in that committee, Honorable Tienda Molo, Senior Counsel, did issue those statements, and we called off that. And we went to Kamkunji, and we said, we shall go back to the people. Now, came maandamano that were peaceful. But you know, we live in this country, and we know for sure that Kenyans are suffering. Today, as Honorable Koech tells us here, that there are no issues. The civil servants are already crying because of their pay slips that have been raided. We have seen the issues with this tax. We said that our issue number one is, as they were in the bipartisan talk, have not changed. Cost of living, reconstitution and restructuring of IEBC, interference with political parties, audit of the 2022 presidential election, those issues remain. And we have now said again, because Honorable Ruto has accepted that we can sit and talk about issues affecting the people of Kenya, not affecting the leaders. That is the issue that Raila Amolo Odinga is concerned about. Those are the issues that Raila Amolo Odinga would want us to see go through in a sustainable manner and being resolved for the benefit of the majority. So, Honorable Koech, I want to tell you, these issues are real. Kenyans are suffering, and I know your constituents are suffering too, just like from where I come from. I know, Idan Kenan, your constituents are suffering too. Eddie Okech, they are. And those issues are bigger than two individuals. And that's why Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and Honorable William Ruto have agreed. The issue is our colleagues from Kenya Kwanza, they want to, in Kiswahili they say, kuteka President Nyara. No, Mr. President has agreed that he's going to talk. Allow him to do what he can do. They have offered in that one-sided statement that was signed by only Chungwa, they have given us their views, what they think Kenya should talk about. We shall give them what Kenya should talk about as we've given them before, starting with the cost of living. So these are issues that
we'll get to the agenda of the conversation.
Down. We must talk about them.
But I'm just wondering, Honorable Kenan, so what format should these talks take? Because already there are those disagreements on very preliminary issues, like whether President Obasanjo was there, on what the agenda should be, but what format should it take, despite what we've been given as a 10-member team from each side?
Thank you. I think first it's good to appreciate that Kenya is a democracy. To that extent, everybody has the right to say what he or she wants to say within the confines of the law. To that extent, I agree with Koech as to whether Obasanjo was around or not. For me, it doesn't. And it doesn't change a lot of things. Obasanjo is a respected, retired former president. He enjoys a lot of respect. And I don't think whether this was his first or last visit to Kenya. He'll always be here as long as he's alive. So that is not the issue. But the issue is, what do we want to achieve out of what we are trying to pursue. We have had elections. Kenya is a democracy since the advent of multipartyism in 1991. We have had elections after every 5 years. The circumstances have completely been different. Each president or each party that has participated in any general election, since I remember, has had issues or party positions or party manifestos. Like in the last, between 2017 and 2022, Uhuru had the Big Four agenda. In 2022, President Ruto had the bottom-up approach, the hustlers approach. So when parties contest, they create a platform, a narrative to persuade the electorate. What surprises me is you have lost an election and you still want to manage how the person who has defeated you will govern. Why don't you allow them to do what they want to do and wait for them to fail? This is the paradox of actually our democracy. And this is why I don't agree that what our friends are pushing for is not in the interest of Kenyans. Like yesterday, I saw my friend Munya struggling to grab the statement, actually to join a bit of limelight to read that statement. And he should be the last person to talk about the cost of living. What did he do as the CS for agriculture? Actually, that person should be held accountable on the rising cost of living. What did he do as a former CS for agriculture? Has things changed? Are we going to see the metamorphosis of a new Munya? That being the case, I think let's separate this. The president, in my opinion, to the best of my recollection, has always been ready to engage Kenyans, not only political leaders, to engage Kenyans on serious developmental issues. That is why the first time we have had the issue of bipartisan, I thought Kenyan was the only problem. I exited in the interest of the national well-being, and it ended there. I knew what my friends were pushing for was not those genuine issues that they have been. No, our friends want to be part of the government. I want to tell them, we have been defeated. We lost. Accept the will of the people. Allow the president to function. If you think he's failing, he's headed in the wrong direction, help him to go in the wrong direction. And 2027, take power. But here is a person who has beaten you. You still, it's like you have gone to a family, you have asked for a girl, you have been given. You still want to manage how your girl is going to prepare her bed, is going to prepare her kitchen. Doesn't make sense. It's abnormal. So the issue is, are we going to externalize our own petty political quarrels after every general election? That is what we have done. Look at what we have done in 1992. Look at what we have done in 1997. Look at what we have done in 2002. Look at what we have done in 2005. Look at what we have done in 2007 again, 2013, 2017, 2022. Really, people should be ashamed of themselves. Yes, Obasanjo is here as our friend. He may apply a bit of institutional respect and say, let's get together and discuss. Is that the agenda? Is that something that we should be very proud of? That every time after every general election, we'll invite our friends to come and mediate? Is that the Kenya that we want to be the pride of Africa? Is that the Kenya that we want to say is the heart of our democracy in the region? It is not. We should be ashamed. Okay. Stop that cynic. Stop that cyclic mentality. Accept the will of the people. If there are issues to be engaged, the president is ready. That is why he has accepted the issue of bipartisan approach. Let's discuss these issues in parliament. Not on the streets, not killing people, not maiming people, not destroying properties, not doing what we have been doing. Let's discuss. That is why leaders are elected. We are the epitome of our democracy. That's why me, as a representative of the people of Eldas, we are ready to engage on behalf of our electorates and sort out issues that affect their well-being, including addressing the cost of living in a manner that is realistic. And I like what has been said. How do you start? The issue of cost of living doesn't start from heaven. We must address the issue of farmers. We must address the issue of land policy. We must address the issue of factors of production. That is the way to go about it. But just coming out of the blue and say, we must address the cost of living. How did we end up there first? Those who contributed must also be held accountable. Okay. That's why we are saying, give the president the space, and we want to congratulate the president. First of all, I think we need to understand this. We need to understand the persona, different individuals. And I think this is the bit that is missing. Ruto is a very pragmatic, highly informed leader who can make decisions. And that is what a statement is supposed to be. Okay. So to that end, this issue of trying to create an amorphous group I'm sorry to say this, an Omofat group, everybody has a personal interest. That is not the way we will achieve some of these things that we want to. Let's go for the real issues. The issue of two-third gender issue, the issue of the constitution of IEBC, the issue of CDF, the issue of reducing cost of living. The issue of reducing cost of living will not come. It's not the way being addressed. It's not the issue of Sufrias. And look at this.
Senator Kenan.
Just 1 minute.
Just hold on. We're just starting. I'll give you an opportunity to, because we get to the agenda of the conversations. Let me first hear from Senator Okech here. What format should these conversations take? Because I see there's the proposal, the agreed position rather, that there are 4 people that will come from outside the Parliament, 2 from each side, the leaders of majority and the leader of minority in the National Assembly, then 4 members of Parliament, 2 from either side. What should be the format of those conversations moving forward? Because already you can feel the sort of disagreement there is.
Thank you, Sam. I think that the first thing that I wanted to do this morning was, because this is my first time since this second wave of riots and protests in our country, that we've seen a number of families lose their loved ones. Personally, having gone and visited a number of those families, I was with women who were weeping and women who were crying. And it is a pain that deeply penetrated my distorted nerves in this country. So I wanted to take this opportunity, first of all, to say sorry and to pass my deepest condolences to those families that were killed by the police, that were maimed, and those that lost their loved ones. It's not light, because even as the country thinks about a possibility of moving forward, for these families, moving forward will take a lot of energy and a lot of grace for them to move forward. So I want to take just the chance to say Pole for them, and hopefully God will grant them grace. And it is in that undertone, Sam, that I want to say that as leaders in this country, particularly the people who are occupying the highest echelons of leadership in this country, we must be sensitive to such things, because we are in a country that if we are not careful, people might talk secession. And I say so because I see a lot of insensitivities when I listen to my brother Koech, and you know, he's my very good friend, as well as a commissioner here. When you want to trivialize issues that have got constitutional merit to just a mere issue of being in power, governing, and your time to eat. Because the issues that Azimio has been able to bring on the table, because if you want to structure this conversation, you must structure it in the context of the weight of those issues. And the first issue that we are talking about, the high cost of living issue, cannot be said to be the issue of just Kenya Kwanza government. It is an issue that is enshrined in the Constitution. If you read Article 43 of the Constitution on economic and social rights, it talks in detail on issues about this right of not being able to be hungry in this country. It talks about the issue of being able to get medicine in this country. It talks about the issue of getting proper housing in this country. Social, economic dignity is in our Constitution. The second issue that Okango referred to, and it has been a very serious issue that Azimio has held, is the issue of what we call electoral justice, which, to be fair, Sam, this is an issue that more prominently started in 2007. I know 1992, you can talk about 1992, but 2007 became the pretext of the current constitution. And then the hope was that the people who occupy offices would actually be able to implement the constitution with respect to Article 86 of the constitution. And Article 86 of the constitution talks about verifiable, transparent, free, and fair elections. To the extent that that article, if not protected, because it's one of the articles that has actually been followed by active law, called the Election Act of 2011, that actually the biggest contention there is that how do you ensure that there is a transparent, free, fair election in this country? It talks about scrutiny after an election. And this idea that Kenya Kwanza is so obsessed or so scared about a scrutiny process of an election once it has happened is bothersome. And then, Sam, the third issue that has been critical from Azimio side is the issue of Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Because Chapter 2 of the Constitution establishes this country, declares this country a sovereign republic within the pretext of a multi-party democracy. What does a multi-party democracy bring in place? It strengthens Article 1 of the Constitution, where sovereign power is ultimately donated by the people to members of parliament, to the extent that the ultimate accountability lab in this country must be parliament. But the problem is that accountability is to the extent that parliament can keep executive in check and can keep the judiciary in check. Because right now we don't have something like an ombudsman that can be able to cushion the people against multi-process in judiciary. But then here is where we are, whereby the executive has basically mortgaged, auctioned, and sold out some of these members of parliament. My friend here sits knowing very well that that article that I'm quoting has actually led to what we call the Political Parties Act 2011 that was established, if you read section 14A, uppercase 1E, says that if your ideology or your interest or even the thing that you want to advance has even slightly changed from the coalition or party that sponsored you to parliament because of the sanctity of that parliament, you must resign. Actually, you are redeemed. You are deemed to have left that coalition and that party, and you must go and seek election. How is my brother Keinani talking very comfortably about we must move on, we lost an election, therefore we must advance the issues of Kenya Kwanza, is the biggest kind of hypocrisy and dishonesty in this country. So why is it important, therefore, to look at the structure of these issues in the context of secession? Because if you don't fundamentally believe in the structure of this constitution, that's a big fundamental difference that touches the issues of sovereignty. And just as I finish,
Senator, we need to take a short break.
Yes.
We'll come back with that and more, especially on the agenda of these conversations. Very different, same meeting between Raila Odinga and William Ruto, whether Obasanjo was there or not. 5 different agenda from Kenya Kwanza. Another list of 4 from the Azimio side. How will they come together to talk about the nation after the break?